So my good pal Lee sent me a rather interesting link to a Reddit post, which we all know you have to take these surveys with a pinch of salt, but even though it's Classic Plus, I couldn't help myself. I had to talk about it. Because there's actually a couple of things regarding Mr. Pandaria that are mentioned in here that kind of got me a little bit excited at the prospect of them at least considering it, which will be abundantly clear as we get through this. So firstly, this is a supposed top secret survey that goes out that every time they go out they get leaked, so don't worry, it happens every time. Now what they're talking about here is a hypothetical new version of World of Warcraft Classic, or what everyone's going to refer to as Classic Plus. The reason I say refer to as Classic Plus is because look, I've skimmed through this already, purely because I wanted to look to see, is it going to be something I want to talk about on video? And quite honestly, this just looks like another seasonal server to me. Not a Classic Plus where it stands on its own 2 feet, coming up with fresh new ideas and completely new systems. This is basically saying, what we already have in WoW from other versions, what would you like to see in this version of Classic? Which to me personally isn't Classic Plus, but I'm not even going to get into what Classic Plus is for me, but just taking certain things from retail, certain things from Mr. Pandaria, certain things from Cataclysm, and then bringing them into a vanilla base version of the game, to me isn't Classic Plus. So what they're trying to do is float the ideas of some of these systems and see what you think about it in a new version of Classic. Firstly, playable Shamans on the Alliance side, and later on it does say playable Paladins on the Horde side. Collection, so a UI-based storage system for pets, mounts and toys to free up inventory space. Not seen that anywhere before. Account-wide collections, which, come on, if you're having collections, obviously you might as well have them account-wide, especially if this genuinely isn't a seasonal server. If it's a seasonal server and all this stuff's going to be lost anyway, who cares? But if it's all account-wide at least, and they do it as a seasonal server and not as what everyone's thinking, a Classic Plus version of the game, then at least you might be able to keep some of this stuff if it is account-wide. 1v1 duel arenas. Now, this is quite interesting. So the ability to go into a special dueling area for 1v1 contests, and they're viewable by spectators. So this would be really good for contests, as in streamed contests, so people can actually watch in real time rather than just watching on the stream. That's pretty cool. New player character models, so they want to try and make it look like retail. I would say probably not. That wouldn't be something that I like to see. I do actually play retail, but kind of keep the retail models where they are. New events that offer different small quests and casual gameplay around the world. These would be released between large updates. Again, think the PvP update in Mr. Pandaria, which will be classed as 5.1, that comes out between the raids, and it's just extra small content, so yeah, okay, kind of expect to see stuff like that anyway. Pet battles, so collect pets from the game world and have them compete head-to-head with other pets in turn-based battles. We all know what pet battles are. They're coming with Mr. Pandaria. If they was in a classic version of the game, would that be enough to actually make me want to play the vanilla content again? Probably not, and you all know I absolutely love pet battles. Level in profession improvements, so the ability to make more usable gear for yourself as you level and be able to craft it at level appropriate trade skill levels. So just revamping the general usefulness of professions, yeah, sure, why not? New class abilities and spells, so brand new class abilities and or spells unique to this version of Classic. Now we've already seen a little bit of this when it comes to Season of Discovery. We know a lot of the abilities that you got from runes were basically just abilities that have been taken from Cataclysm or from Mr. Pandaria, or in some cases even retail. But there was some abilities that were thrown in, or at least seemed new, because they was only based on certain abilities from other versions of the game. So yes, absolutely spice up some of the classes. It would need it. Again, for me to play a classic version of the game, as in a vanilla base version of the game, the classes would need to be a hell of a lot more interesting than they would be. Honor reward redesign, so this is to move honor rewards away from the original WoW model, which absolutely sucks in my opinion, and they're suggesting basically to change it to how it is in all other versions of the game, where with each new tier set that comes out with the raid, so the PvE side, we get better PvP gear to be able to grind out currency to be able to get as well. So okay, the one that will make everyone absolutely lose their mind is the WoW token. Now, I think we've kind of moved on from this. Having the WoW token in the game, is it a good or a bad thing to have it in the game? We could literally sit and debate that all day long, and probably all year long. But the fact is, if they're actually going to invest a lot of money into making this a long-term project, so not a seasonal server, it's going to be something that does stand on its own 2 feet and not just be something that's around for a year or a year and a half, then yeah, I think the WoW token would be something that they should at least consider, and something that we should consider accepting. Class talent adjustments, so this would be streamlining and improving class talent trees to make weaker specializations and classes more viable, while still maintaining the overall feel and flow of classic combat. Now, personally, I think there would need to be a lot of work done to the talents and abilities to be able to make the classes at least feel not just fun to play, but also keeping them all competitive in raids. Now, that's a huge undertaking on its own, one that I'm sure the classic team could do as long as their attention isn't split. Because that's the thing, while they're trying to maintain and roll out new expansions of classic, whilst also looking like they want to do something that's quite bold, even bolder than Season of Discovery, then they need to be able to put all their focus on this version of the game, which we will touch on when we get a little bit further through this anyway, because that could be exactly what happens. Playable High Elves, yeah, no comment on that really. Revisiting known but unexplored zones, so visiting zones that were a part of Warcraft history but never playable in original World of Warcraft. So things like Mount Hyjal, Oldham, Gilneas, etc. So yeah, they weren't playable in original World of Warcraft, but they did eventually become playable. So unexplored is a bit of a bold statement, but still. Then the one that gave me a full-fledged chub is player housing. Now, I absolutely cannot wait for player housing in Midnight, and with all of what's been said in this survey so far, with things like class balance, pet battles, collections, redesign of the honor system, which I absolutely hate the original honor system, and then they're mentioning player housing. Yeah, I mean, that could really pique my interest, and in fact it already has, the fact that they're even considering it. So yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. Achievements, yes, they should just have achievements in the game, especially if we're going along the new/old hybrid version of the game, which is kind of what it sounds like to me. Cross-realm play, so the ability to group with friends from other realms for dungeons, battlegrounds and other instanced activities, which yeah, I absolutely think that they should, and I think it just makes the game better. Honor system redesign, so a ground-up redesign of the honor system, removing the hard honor cap, making the system more evergreen and continually engaging. I think just making any of these systems better than they was originally should just be a good thing. War mode, which I'm sure if you've played retail you know what that is. Basically every server would be classed as PvE or normal, but you can opt in to PvP by toggling war mode on. And then when you've got war mode on, you normally get a bonus, so something like extra XP while you're leveling. So again, war mode, in my opinion, would be a good thing, but I'm not really the person they're catering to. You know, as in, am I their target audience? I would say no, because I hate vanilla. You know, it's no secret. I really don't like how slow and sluggish the classes are. The fact that they're so imbalanced as well. The raids are really boring. I hate 40-man raiding in general. Like, I am not the person this is obviously focusing on. So when it comes to any of these new systems they're mentioning, or systems that exist currently in retail, of course with things like war mode I'm going to be all over it, the same I would be with pet battles, achievements, account-wide collections, like all of that I of course would say I'd love to see it in whatever they're calling this version of the game. So brand new zones, completely new playable areas with unique lore added to Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. Yes, absolutely, would want new content in whatever this game will be. New 20-player focus raids, new 40-player focus raids. So again, I don't like 40-player. I would say yes to 20-man, definitely. And 10-man, which is on here a little way down. Graphical improvements to lighting, shadow and surface reflections. Yeah, I mean, I quite honestly don't really care. Like, the game looks absolutely fine. If they want to just give it a little bit of a polish, why not? New trade skills, so new primary and secondary professions. Now, that's a huge one, actually, because there are actually professions that they've tried to put in before that got scrapped. But if they started to build on it with things where it's not like just jewel crafting getting added in vanilla or inscription getting added in vanilla, and these were actually completely new professions we've not seen before, I think that would be pretty insane. Graphical texture improvements and resolution upgrade, again using modern technology to improve the fidelity of textures used on classic art assets. I couldn't care less, my eyes are so bad, all the games look the same to me. New objective-based PvP instance, I mean that says new battleground and it literally says one, but I would imagine there'd be multiple over the years if this was something that started and carried on for the next decade. New class race combinations, including those never seen in Warcraft before. Yeah, absolutely, why not? New class. So character classes that are completely new to any version of World of Warcraft. So not Death Knights, not monks, not demon hunters and not evokers. Well, what I would say around this is yes, like having a new class, cool, that would actually be really, really good, and it would attract a lot of people to play. You know, people who have played retail for years, like myself. I've played literally since 2004. If there was a new class that only can be played in this version of the game, I would play it, just to see what it's like, see if I enjoy it, what's it like raiding on. And they've mentioned the other classes, and I actually think if they was going to be this bold to introduce a new class, new raids, new PvP, completely revamping old systems, cross-realm play, this is sounding really bold, some of the concepts that they've got in mind. So if the vast majority of these went through, I would have all of the classes. I would have monks in it, and I would have monks in it just so I could play, because I don't think I'd want to play without monks. But the new class might be a melee class that I really like, so who knows. But I'm no lore expert, but I would guess Death Knights, monks, demon hunters, and even evokers were knocking around back in original World of Warcraft, just in places we haven't been to yet. So just get them in the game. New 10-player focus raid dungeons, absolutely. You know I love 10-man. The only thing I'd like to see is the 10-player raids being an option of 20-player. So like Cataclysm and MoP, where you can do 25-man or 10-man. The difficulty is similar and the gear's exactly the same. Like if it was like that in this, I'd be pretty happy. Cross-realm guilds, I mean, sure, if you can do everything else cross-realm, why not? Not something I would be that bothered about, but if you're making one thing cross-realm, you might as well make them all. Having transmog in the game, I mean, why not? If you want to transmog your gear, it has no player power, no impact. All it does is actually makes certain markets thrive more, so certain items hold more value because they look cool. And if this is going to be going the distance, then yeah, sure, why not have transmogging from the start? Playable paladins on the horde side, of course. And then finally we're at the bit where it's actually talking about Mr. Pandaria, or Mr. Pandaria is mentioned in a way that I thought, that sounds interesting. Regardless of which version of WoW is your current main version, what version of WoW do you think will become your main version in the future once Classic Mist of Pandaria ends? Classic era with my Mist of Pandaria characters? I don't really know how that would work. A different version of Classic without my Mist of Pandaria characters. Retail/Modern WoW with my Mist of Pandaria characters. Wrath of the Lich King Classic or another earlier Classic expansion with my Mist of Pandaria characters. I don't quite get that. What? So they're saying we can have Wrath of the Lich King and you can move your MoP characters to it. That are level 90, they're going to be scaled down. What happens to all your gear, mounts, all... I don't know. Sounds a little bit weird. Classic Warlords of Draenor if it becomes available. Yeah, that'd be me. I'd go on to Classic WoD, quite honestly. A permanently frozen Mist of Pandaria Classic realm with no further updates, which is quite strange that there's both of those options there. So they're already thinking about a possible MoP Era server, which I would kind of like a MoP Era server, to be honest with you, but I would also like it to go on to Warlords of Draenor. And then finally, I do not plan to continue playing WoW after the end of Classic Mr. Pandaria. Now, outside of the fact that I have absolutely no idea what they were thinking when they worded these questions, because a Classic Era vanilla-style server realm with my Mist of Pandaria characters, I don't even know what that means. How on earth can you move your monk from a MoP server to a vanilla server? I don't know. Because at first when I read it, I thought the Classic Era part... they was just using Classic Era as an example, and they mean a MoP server that's just stuck in MoP forever, but then that's an option further down, so I don't really know. But it looks like they're already thinking about what's going to happen after Mr. Pandaria. Now, I know as well as you do, we're going to get Warlords of Draenor because they're going to want to do Legion Classic, so I think that's already written in the stars. But if we was to say worst case scenario, they knocked Classic on the head at the end of Mr. Pandaria because they want to focus on whatever this new project is, at least they're already thinking that you'll be able to move your MoP characters to either a vanilla era server for some reason, or over to retail, which retail would be where I went at the end of Mr. Pandaria 100%, because player housing in Midnight, so why not? I'm assuming there was actually other slides involved in this, but this is all I've got. It's a pretty shoddily edited video, I know that, and I've not even started editing it yet, and that's purely because I've already put a video out today, but I just wanted to get this one out in case you haven't seen it, or you was bored and I could give you 10 minutes worth of content to watch, but whatever. If you enjoyed the video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe. Check out the Rested XP link in the pinned comment in the description for your MoP pre-order guide, and I'll see you on the next one.